Does anybody here know who Tony Mitra is? A way better response than I was expecting. Awesome. Tony is a retired marine engineer and a ship management executive. He is passionate about kicking GMO out and is convinced that a patented GMO and pesticide-driven industry is not just bad for our health, but also a design to subvert Canada's democratic foundation and turn it into a vassal state serving the needs of foreign corporations. Tony is a citizen journalist, a podcaster, a videographer, a food security activist, and a burgeoning public speaker. He is also writing a book, Canada Under GMO Attack. Most recently, he toured around Canada alongside Dr. Thierry Brain for the Cross Canada Speakers Tour. He's also involved in arranging for Canadians to have their water, blood, urine, and mother's breast milk tested for the presence of Monsanto Roundup herbicide. He's doing that because the Canadian government won't. If you are interested in the possibility of joining this study, there are volunteer sign-up sheets. Jarius and Rachel are running around with them. If you ask at that tent, they'll be able to point you in the right direction. If you're interested in doing that, by all means, please leave your name, email, phone number, and Tony or myself will get in touch with you. Tony Mitra.
So are we mad enough or not? We know Monsanto's GMO is bad, but what we didn't know before, like Kenneth aptly pointed out, that even worse than GMO is the poison that they pass around with the pesticide called glyphosate. And it's not just we are being poisoned by eating GMO crop, which is of course also laced with this glyphosate. We are getting poisoned by eating even non-GMO food, because glyphosate is now being sprayed on non-GMO crop like sugarcane and wheat. So when you buy bread, knowing that wheat is non-GMO, you are still vulnerable to be poisoned by this glyphosate. How bad is this? This crap. Well, there are not many independent scientists left in this world who can talk about the dangers of glyphosate, because science has been hijacked by these biotech corporations. So there has never been more science censorship in the world like it is today. But there are still, thankfully, a handful of scientists that are still able to talk about it. That's because their funding is not coming from the biotech industry. I can name a few to you all so that you can keep track of them. One of them is Dr. Don Huber of University of Purdue in Idaho. Another is Dr. Anthony Samsel. The third is Dr. Stephanie Seneff of MIT. I know them. I talk to them almost every week, sometimes daily basis. And this Samsel and Seneff have prepared this recent science papers and charts that actually correlate year upon year rise of the use of glyphosate in Roundup, matching exactly rise of reported cases of all kinds of autoimmune diseases, starting from celiac and Crohn and autism and obesity and attention deficiency, you name it. And not only that, it is one of the biggest scientific lies ever told that glyphosate is safe for people. It is told like that because it doesn't interfere directly with mammals like us, but it is an antibiotic. It kills our gut bacteria. And now today we know that hundreds and hundreds of enzymes, proteins, vitamins that we need, that we get from our food, is not automatically taken from the food. It needs to be broken down into its elements and rebuilt up into the exact molecule that we need, and we cannot do that. That gut bacteria does it. So therefore you damage your gut bacteria, depending on what part of it is damaged, you fall sick for one or the other. And these two scientists correlated the epidemic level rise of all these diseases going on. In fact, if you want to listen to them in their own voice, the best way to do it is go to my blog site and listen to them, because all the podcasts are up there. And if you sign up there is fine. Otherwise, you can pick up one of my name cards where my blog detail is there. You can listen to Dr. Stephanie Seneff of MIT, who is talking to me about just one disease, autism. 20 years ago, it was one in 10,000 people that newborns that fell into the spectrum of autism. Today, it is less than 50. It's 1 out of 45. But I asked her, where is it going? And she knows the glyphosate amount being increased, there is no retraction yet. And the same way, matching, is the rise of autism. And she says by 2025, 1 out of 2 kids born in North America will fall under autism spectrum. It's in her own voice. She is a scientist of MIT. She is not a hack. You can listen to her in her own voice. She even tells me, Tony, I'm so worried, that I'm thinking of telling young mothers, if you are going to have a baby, seriously consider one of 2 options. 1, leave North America. Any goddamn place in this planet is better than this. Or 2, go organic as if your life depended on it. In fact, the life of your child very well may depend on it. This is Stephanie Seneff of MIT. Okay, so this is how bad this crap is. Now, my 2 points here of talking will be 1 about the testing and 1 about public citizen action. About testing. I have written to all the governments in Canada, almost all, starting with Prince Edward Island, New Brunswick, Health Canada, Forestry and Health Ministry of BC. Some of them don't bother to reply. They are not public servants. They think they're rulers or something. Some reply and always give you shifty answers. I've also written to the lowest form of government, which is municipalities. Here is an example of Hero who has kick-started the revolution against GMO in BC. You will hear him talk later on. So the thing is, government will not test what should be their duty to check how much of these glyphosates have gotten into our drinking water, into our blood, into our urine, in our mother milk. They won't do it. They are always saying it is safe, there is no need to test it, there is no lab around, all kinds of bullshit. So a group, Moms Across America, started by founder Zen Honeycutt, who has become my Facebook friend now. They started testing on their own urine and blood and mother's milk and all that, and that rattled up the things, because many of the nursing women had glyphosate in their breast milk, passing it on their kids right now. Although the biotech industry is poo-pooing it, saying that it was not scientific, that it was not done properly, blah, blah, blah. But this result is already rattling up people. EPA has invited Zen to talk to them about possibility of whatever concern she has. And as we speak, there are more scientific tests being planned without involvement of people like us. I'm a rabble-rouser. I mean, people, activists and so on, done more professionally. And also this is being done in Europe. Also, this is being organized now on an international level. I know in Russia they are doing it separately. I'm going to talk to them very soon about it. So, Canada had not been a part of this as far as I knew. But now things are changing. A lot of Canadians want to test their own environment, their own groundwater, their own urine, blood, etc. And now we got beginning to get quotations coming from US labs as well as Canadian labs, certified labs whose result will stand up in court, and they're willing to test for glyphosate for various kind of samples. It costs between $100 and $200 depending on how serious, how minute or detailed or not detailed, what kind of test. There is a need for the citizens to get involved with it. And once we start, there is also a need to get organized so that all these data that come up, one can put it in a map and begin to get a picture of how Canada is, which areas are worst affected and which other areas, which kind of age group or food habit people are affected and so on. So there is a need to get involved a little bit, and that's why I invite those who are interested, stay in touch, and then we see how it works. I have personally decided that I will test one sample from my family, me or my wife's, our drinking water, urine or something. But I know that those who, like us, who are careful about the food, who can afford to buy organic food, which is more costly at the moment, may have no glyphosate or less glyphosate compared to a vast majority of others who are not being so careful, or they are not financially secure enough to buy organic safe food, or they live in rural areas where these options are not very. So this picture will not be fair if we only test ourselves. So I decided that I myself will pay for 2 tests, one from our family and one for some other deserving candidate who should be tested. Government is not testing them. I will pay for it. And I encourage all of you to similarly look around and find, and we need to get this map, which are the areas where this test should be done, and we encourage all of you to help out. We need help. I mean, government has abandoned us, so we have to bypass the political process and do it. This is one part. Second part is, as far as the scientific analysis testing is concerned, there are these two scientists, Stephanie Seneff, I already mentioned to you, and Anthony Samsel, I already mentioned. These two people are willing to offer a service to the Canadian people under a pilot project of selected candidates of a selected area for a long time test of glyphosate, increase of glyphosate in their environment and their food web, increase of it in their body tissues and so on, and increase of their disease level and so on. And it has to be a proper study with peer-reviewed analysis and so on. So these two scientists are offering it. We'll have to find means to pay for those tests. They are not very costly, and they are willing to pay some of it out of their own pocket for really poor people who cannot afford it and all that. So that is one that is happening now. Once again, please stay in touch with me because I am in the middle of it. And second is, there is an effort to even a bigger full-scale testing to be done by proper universities, scientists who are willing to stake their scientific future on it, because they can get blackballed, they can get discredited, they can get sacked, their funding can be... So people are willing to risk their career for it. There are biotech industries won't fund for them, so there are private investors that are slowly coming together, willing to put in their $1 million into a good cause. So all this is happening. I'm not even supposed to mention it because we are not supposed to be part of it, but this is happening as we speak. And we hope that once we get this going, we can shame this bloody government to do what they should have done instead of forcing us to do. This is the first part of my talk. The second part, gentlemen, I was born in India where my parents' generation and grandparents' generation had to fight for their independence, for their political independence. They had to go to jail, they had to follow Gandhi, they had to do a lot of things. I came here thinking I was in a free country. But gentlemen, I have come to the realization that this democracy has gone to hell in a handbasket. Because these politicians have become essentially a tool of the oppressors. You know, this government has become of Monsanto, by Monsanto and for Monsanto. It is not for the people. And this has happened for a reason. It's not Monsanto's fault. Any corporation will always try to make money whichever hook or crook they can. It is because our political system allows it. And that has become because you and me have allowed these blinking politicians to get away with it. And it is my opinion that this is not going to change by simply talking again in a mic. It is not going to change by us jumping up and down with a placard all over the place. It is not going to happen by simply asking politicians, please look at this and please look at that. It is only going to happen when we wrench back the control of the political process into the hands of the public and away from the control of corporations. It is not going to change otherwise. And for this, for people like you and me, it is difficult to control bigger governments like the provincial government or the Ottawa government. But what is possible is to control the local municipal governments of your own town. That is very approachable, that is very influential. It is very difficult for them to get away from you. You meet them every day at your stores and all that. And it is possible to influence them. And I know many councillors. Steve Jobs is one of the greatest councillor you can find in Canada. He kick-started the whole thing in Richmond. But there are a lot of rogue councillors that work for not your interest, for the biotech company's interest. And I have learned from other good councillors that these bumps get elected sometimes, I'm not kidding you, with 5 votes. 5 votes, and they get them elected. Why? Because Canadians are sleeping. They don't go to the municipal election. They don't even know when they're elected. So all these rubbish people get elected. Gentlemen, the buck stops at our feet. We have to do is to recognize which guys are working for us and which guys are against us, and we have to kick the bumps into the Pacific Ocean. That is the only way we can regain our political independence. This is not just about bad health. This is not just about bad science. The Canadian independence is under attack, and it is being corrupted from the ground up. It is for us to rectify it. Gentlemen, that's all for me. I'll end it with a slogan. Hell no, Monsanto, take your freaking GMO. Hell no, Monsanto, take your freaking GMO. Hell no, Monsanto, take your freaking GMO. Thank you, gentlemen.
Awesome. Thank you, Tony.